Greetings everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go through Black Sabbath's long career that spanned for almost 50 years. This timeline follows the important events from the time when they got together in the late 60s up until 2017 when they decided to call it quits. So without further ado, let's get into the Black Sabbath timeline. Tony Iommi and Bill Ward were in a band called Mythology, while Butler and Ozzy Osbourne were in a band called Rare Breed. Those two groups soon broke up, and the lads decided to form a new band together called the Tull Blues Band. Tony Iommi briefly joined Jethro Tull, where he learned the value of hard work and early mornings in order to make it in the music business. After one gig with Jethro Tull, Tony left the band and returned to his old mates. The Tull Blues Band then decided to shorten their name to Talk, but it didn't end there. Soon after they became Earth. Earth started touring England, but they soon found out that there was another band called Earth, and it led to some confusion. So Geezer suggested that they change their name to Black Sabbath, after the 1963 movie Black Sabbath, starring Boris Karloff. In November of 1969, Black Sabbath signed their first record deal with Philips Records. Black Sabbath released their first single, Evil Woman, in January of 1970. Later releases were handled by Philips' newly formed progressive rock label Vertigo Records. Black Sabbath released their self-titled debut album on Friday the 13th of February 1970. It's generally considered to be the first heavy metal album. It received some negative reviews, but despite that, the album was a commercial success. The legendary cover photo was taken in front of Maple Durham Watermill in Oxfordshire, England. The album featured two blues covers, Evil Woman, original by the American band Crow, and Warning, original by Ainsley Dunbar Retaliation. The band then entered the studio to record their next album, Paranoid. Originally it was supposed to be titled War Pigs, but the label objected to that, so it was retitled Paranoid. Paranoid was released on the 18th of September in 1970. The album features several of their most iconic songs, such as War Pigs, Paranoid, and Iron Man. On the 21st of July in 1971, Black Sabbath released their third studio album, Master of Reality. This was actually the first time that they tuned down their instruments before going into the studio. We can then bust the myth that says that Tony Iommi were unable to play in standard tuning, because they all played in standard tuning on Black Sabbath's first two studio records. For those who don't know, Tony Iommi lost two fingertips in an accident back in 1965, and worth noting is that Geezer Butler also decided to tune down his bass in order to match Iommi's guitar. The down-tuned sound of Master of Reality laid the groundwork for the doom metal genre. In 1972, Black Sabbath started working on their fourth studio album, but due to fatigue from constant touring and heavy substance abuse, it took them some extra time to complete the record. On the 25th of September 1972, Black Sabbath released their fourth studio album titled Volume 4. It was recorded in Los Angeles, and on this album, the band started experimenting with more orchestration. For example, strings and piano was used for this album. Black Sabbath intended to name the album Snowblind, but once again the label stepped in, and the title was changed to Volume 4. The album failed to chart, but it still sold 1 million copies in the US alone. Black Sabbath wanted to further develop their sound, so their new songs incorporated synthesizers, strings, and more complex arrangements. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath was released in late 1973. With the album, Sabbath showed a more progressive side, and some of the songs had a brighter feel to them. The band began a world tour in January of 1974, which culminated at the California Jam Festival in Ontario, California, on the 6th of April 1974. Over 200,000 people attended. Black Sabbath signed up with the notorious English manager Don Arden, father of Sharon Arden, later Sharon Osbourne. The move caused a contractual dispute with their former management. In February of 1975, Black Sabbath began recording their 6th studio album. Instead of going in a more technical direction, the Birmingham boys decided to go for a heavier and more stripped-down hard rock sound. In July of 1975, Sabotage was released. The reviews were varied. Rolling Stones magazine stated that it was their best studio album since Paranoid, while others thought that the magic of their first 4 albums were beginning to disintegrate. Keyboardist Gerald Woodruff, who had briefly worked with the band on Sabotage, is once again part of the recordings of their new album. Technical Ecstasy was released on the 1st of October 1976. It featured less ominous doom metal tracks than their previous albums. In late 1977, Ozzy Osbourne abruptly left Black Sabbath. Tony Iommi then asked his friend Dave Walker, previously in Fleetwood Mac and Savoy Brown, to join the band. Black Sabbath appeared on BBC's Look Here. Dave Walker made his only appearance that night, because Ozzy decided to rejoin the band in early 1978. But it wasn't a smooth return for Ozzy. The underlying issues and the ongoing substance abuse were taking its toll on the band. In September of 1978, the band released their 8th studio album, Never Say Die. The general reception from fans and journalists were lukewarm. The label was getting fed up with the band's drug and alcohol abuse. Ozzy's erratic behavior was especially getting out of hand, so the band decided to fire him on the 27th of April 1979. Black Sabbath's manager Don Arden tried to convince Ozzy Osbourne to rejoin the band, but it wasn't meant to be. Instead, Ronnie James Dio joined the band during the summer of 1979. In 1979, Geezer Butler temporarily left the band. He was at first replaced by Craig Gruber, formerly of Elf, and later by Jeff Nichols of Quartz. With Geezer Butler returning to the band, Jeff Nichols left his bass duties and took over the keyboards instead. In April of 1980, Black Sabbath released Heaven and Hell. The album was produced by Martin Birch. The Dio-fronted Sabbath were getting great reviews all over the press, but there were still fans that hadn't yet gotten over Ozzy's departure from the band. Black Sabbath went on the Black and Blue tour throughout the US with Blue Oyster Cult. While on tour, Black Sabbath's former management decided to release the unauthorized Live at Last, featuring former Sabbath vocalist Ozzy Osbourne. On the 18th of August, Bill Ward quit the band due to his accelerating alcoholism, but also due to him missing his old pal Ozzy. Vinnie Appice was chosen as Bill's replacement. On the 20th of September, former Sabbath vocalist Ozzy Osbourne released his solo debut album Blizzard of Oz. The band started working on Mob Rules, their second studio album with former Rainbow vocalist Ronnie James Dio. Once again, Martin Birch was hired to produce the album. Black Sabbath released Mob Rules in October of 1981. Rolling Stone magazine gave it a 1-star review, but the album was well received amongst the fans. Black Sabbath were unhappy with the unauthorized release of the live album Live at Last, so the band decided to record a new live album, Live Evil, while being on tour to support their new album, Mob Rules. During the mixing process of Live Evil, Iommi and Butler had a falling out with Dio. Ronnie Dio didn't like being told how to sing, so he decided to quit the band. Ronnie James Dio recruited Black Sabbath drummer Vinnie Appice to his newly started Dio band. Iommi and Butler started the search for the new vocalist. Names like David Coverdale, Nicky Moore, John Sloman, and even Michael Bolton was considered. Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist Randy Rhoads died in a plane accident on the 19th of March 1982. In April, former Deep Purple vocalist Ian Gillan was revealed as the band's new vocalist. Initially, this new project was supposed to go under another name, but the label thought that it would make more sense to keep the name Black Sabbath. A sobered-up Bill Ward returned to the Black Sabbath lineup. On the 23rd of May, Dio released his debut solo album Holy Diver. Born Again was released on the 7th of August in 1983. It featured Deep Purple's vocalist Ian Gillan. It was also the last Sabbath album to feature original drummer Bill Ward. The album received some backlash due to the bad production and the weird cover art, but in more recent years, the album has had a bit of a revival. Ian Gillan's bluesy and humorous approach were in stark contrast to the gloom and doom of Black Sabbath, but despite a few bad reviews, the album did quite well on the UK and US charts. Unable to cope with the pressures of the road, drummer Bill Ward left the band again, and he was replaced by Electric Light Orchestra's Bev Bevan. Following the completion of the Born Again tour in March of 1984, vocalist Ian Gillan left Black Sabbath to rejoin Deep Purple, which was reforming after a long hiatus. Drummer Bev Bevan also decided to leave the band when Ian Gillan left. Black Sabbath then recruited an unknown Los Angeles vocalist named David Donato, and Bill Ward once again rejoined the band. The new lineup wrote and rehearsed throughout 1984, and in October they recorded a demo with producer Bob Ezrin. Unhappy with the results, the band then parted ways with David Donato shortly after. Vocalist Jeff Fenholt got in contact with Tony Iommi through manager Don Arden. Jeff recorded vocals for an early version of Seventh Star that were later scrapped when he departed due to tension with the band's management. It's debated whether Jeff Fenholt was an official member of Black Sabbath. It can be argued that he wasn't an active member at all, since it was theoretically Tony Iommi's solo project at the time, and not Black Sabbath. Disillusioned with the band's revolving lineup, Bill Ward left the band and stated, "This isn't Black Sabbath." Next to leave Sabbath was Geezer Butler. He left in November of 1984 to form a solo band. When Ian Gillan took over, it was just the end of it for me, he said. I thought it was just a joke and I just totally left. When we got together with Gillan, it was not supposed to be a Black Sabbath album. After we had done the album, we gave it to Warner Bros. They said that they were going to put it out as a Black Sabbath album, and we didn't have one leg to stand on. I got really disillusioned with it, and Gillan was really pissed off about it. That lasted one album and one tour, and then that was it. Following both Ward's and Butler's exits, sole remaining original member Tony Iommi put Sabbath on hiatus. Iommi then began work on a solo album with longtime Sabbath keyboardist Jeff Nichols. While working on new material, the original Sabbath lineup agreed to do a spot at Bob Geldof's Live Aid, performing at the Philadelphia show on the 13th of July 1985. This was the first time that the original lineup had appeared on stage together since 1978. Returning to his solo work, Tony Iommi recruited bassist Dave Spitz and drummer Eric Singer to his new project. XD Purple vocalist Glenn Hughes came along to sing on one track, but then they decided to use his services for the whole album. Manager Don Arden was backed by the label, and together they put some pressure on the band to release the upcoming album under the Black Sabbath name, instead of releasing it as a Tony Iommi solo album. The album 7 Star was released in January of 1986. It was released under the name Black Sabbath, featuring Tony Iommi. 7 Star was a drastic departure from the trademark Sabbath sound, with many of the songs having a more classic hard rock sound to them. Vocalist Glenn Hughes got in a fight with the band's production manager. Glenn was injured, so Ray Gillan was called in to do the upcoming tour. Bassist Dave Spitz quit over personal issues, and former Rainbow and Ozzy Osbourne bassist Bob Daisley was brought in. Daisley re-recorded all of the bass tracks, and he wrote the album's lyrics, but before the album was complete, he left to join Gary Moore's backing band, taking drummer Eric Singer with him. The lineup problems continued for Black Sabbath, as their new vocalist Ray Gillan abruptly left Black Sabbath to form Blue Murder. Black Sabbath then recruited Tony Martin to be the band's new vocalist. On the 23rd of November, Black Sabbath released their 13th studio album, The Eternal Idol. Worth noting is that Bob Daisley and Eric Singer, who played on the record, had already left the band when the album came out. Following the poor commercial performance of The Eternal Idol, Black Sabbath were dropped by both Vertigo Records and Warner Bros. Records. Sabbath then signed up with Hi-Res Records. Sabbath took some time off in early 1988 while contemplating over their future. Tony Iommi figured out that the band needed to build some credibility again. Iommi enlisted former Rainbow drummer Cozy Powell, as well as session bassist Lawrence Cottle. They also rented a very cheap studio in England to record their new album. Black Sabbath released Headless Cross in April of 1989. Queen guitarist Brian May made a guest appearance. The album got some favorable reviews, even if the band's popularity had faded quite a bit due to the constant lineup changes. It got so bad that the band had to cancel their tour after just 8 gigs due to bad ticket sales. The band then returned to the studio in February of 1990 to record Cheer, the follow-up to Headless Cross. While not technically a concept album, some of the album's lyrical themes were loosely based on Norse mythology. Cheer was released on the 6th of August in 1990, reaching number 24 on the UK albums chart. But it didn't perform that well in the US, since it was the first Black Sabbath album not to break the Billboard's Top 200 list. Once again, the band had to cancel shows due to lacking ticket sales. Geezer Butler and Ronnie James Dio then showed interest in rejoining Black Sabbath, so Tony Iommi broke up the current lineup by firing vocalist Tony Martin and bassist Neil Murray. Cozy Powell broke his hip, so he was replaced by Vinnie Appice. That meant that the Mob Rules lineup of Iommi, Dio, Butler and Appice had reunited. The recordings of Black Sabbath's upcoming album Dehumanizer took over a year. Dio recalled the recordings as difficult but worth the effort. Dehumanizer was released on the 22nd of June 1992 through Reprise Records. While the album received mixed reviews, it was the band's biggest commercial success in over a decade. While on tour to promote their new album, Ozzy Osbourne announced his retirement, and Black Sabbath was asked to open up for their former singer. Ronnie James Dio refused to take part and subsequently quit the band. Judas Priest vocalist Rob Halford filled in and joined Sabbath on stage for 2 shows. Drummer Vinnie Appice left the band following the reunion show to rejoin Ronnie James Dio's solo band. Sabbath then recruited ex-Rainbow drummer Bobby Rondinelli, and they reinstated former vocalist Tony Martin. Once again, the band's new album wasn't supposed to be released as a Black Sabbath album, but the label thought otherwise. Black Sabbath released their 17th studio album, Cross Purposes, on the 8th of February 1994. After the following tour, Geezer Butler left Sabbath to pursue a solo career. Bill Ward briefly rejoined the band, but he was soon replaced by Cozy Powell. Bassist Neil Murray also rejoined the band, effectively reuniting the 1990 tour lineup. Black Sabbath hired Body Count's Ernie C to produce their upcoming record. Rapper Ice-T, also of Body Count, appeared on the track Illusion of Power. Forbidden was released on the 8th of June 1995. 2 months into the following tour, Cozy Powell left the band due to health issues. Former member Bobby Rondinelli then rejoined the band. When the tour finished, Tony Iommi put Black Sabbath on hiatus to work on his upcoming solo album. Black Sabbath were on hiatus during 1996, but Tony Iommi got busy recording his solo album, the 1996 Depth Sessions, together with former Sabbath vocalist Glenn Hughes. The album remained unreleased until 2004. In the summer of 1997, Iommi, Butler and Osbourne reunited to co-headline the Ozfest tour alongside Osbourne's solo band. Ozzy's drummer Mike Bordin then filled in for Bill Ward. In December of 1997, the group was joined by Bill Ward, marking the first reunion of the original quartet since Osbourne's 1992 retirement show. This lineup recorded 2 shows in Birmingham, and these recordings were then released as the double album Reunion on the 20th of October 1998. Bill Ward suffered a heart attack, and he was temporarily replaced by Vinnie Appice. Former Black Sabbath drummer Cozy Powell died in a car crash on the 5th of April in 1999. Cozy appeared on the following Sabbath albums, Headless Cross, Tour and Forbidden. Black Sabbath went on a hiatus while Tony Iommi and Ozzy Osbourne worked on their respective solo albums, Iommi and Down to Earth. All 4 original Sabbath members started to work on new material with Rick Rubin, but the work was halted due to Ozzy being called away to finish his solo album. In March of 2002, Ozzy Osbourne's Emmy-winning reality show The Osbournes debuted on MTV, and it quickly became a worldwide success. Black Sabbath remained on hiatus until the summer of 2004, when they returned to headline Ozfest. The compilation Black Sabbath The Dio Years was released in 2007. For the release, Iommi, Butler, Dio and Appice reunited to write and record 3 new songs as Black Sabbath. The Dio Years compilation was so well received that the band decided to reunite this lineup of Black Sabbath to do a world tour. The new lineup opted to call themselves Heaven and Hell to avoid confusion with the Ozzy-fronted lineup. Heaven and Hell released The Devil You Know on the 28th of April 2009. Later that year, Dio was diagnosed with cancer. Ronnie James Dio passed away on the 16th of April from stomach cancer. The legal battle between Ozzy Osbourne and Tony Iommi over the trademarking of the Black Sabbath name ended, but the terms of the settlement have not been disclosed. Iommi, Butler, Osbourne and Ward announced that they were reuniting to record a new album with a full tour in support beginning in 2012. Tony Iommi was diagnosed with lymphoma, so they cancelled the planned tour. Bill Ward also announced that he would not participate until he was offered a signable contract. On the 21st of May 2012, at the O2 Academy in Birmingham, Black Sabbath played their first concert since 2005, with Tommy Clufetus playing the drums. In June, Black Sabbath released their final studio album titled 13. The album was produced by Rick Rubin. Brad Wilk of Rage Against the Machine played the drums on the album. In June of 2013, 13 topped both the UK Albums Chart and the US Billboard's Top 200 list. In 2016, Black Sabbath embarked on their final tour, called The End. The End was also the name of their final EP, released on the 20th of January 2016. On the 7th of March 2017, Black Sabbath announced their disbandment through posts made on their official social media accounts. Since they disbanded, the original 4 members have continuously ruled out a full reunion. However, Tony Iommi and Ozzy Osbourne reunited on stage for the 2022 Commonwealth Games that took place in their hometown of Birmingham. Tony Iommi appeared as a guest musician on 2 tracks on Ozzy Osbourne's new album Patient Number 9. The album was released on the 9th of September 2022. On the 1st of February in 2023, Ozzy Osbourne announced that he is retiring as a touring musician. The end. That was the complete Black Sabbath timeline. But let me know if you think that I missed some important events in this video, because it's impossible to cover everything that happened during these 50 years in just one video, but I think that I managed to compile the most important events in their long career. And if you watched the full video, then make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. This video took countless of hours to compile, so if you want to support content like this that focuses on classic heavy metal, then I can recommend that you become a Patreon. It's from $3 per month, and by doing that you get your name in my videos like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And I'm also on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram and a lot of other places too. So check all the links listed down below if you're interested in that. And that's all for now, so thanks for watching and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers.